Welcome to the Sellernomics Podcast, where we share valuable tips and information in the Amazon and e-commerce space. Each week, we deliver the best interviews with some of the top Amazon personalities in the industry to help you grow your business. Today's episode is brought to you by Getida, the global leader in FBA auditing and reimbursements. Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. And now, here are your hosts, Rob Stanley and Lisa Kinski.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to today's episode of Sellernomics. My name is Lisa Kinski, and I'm joined by my co-host, Rob Stanley. And we have with us today a guest with probably the most interesting company name that we've had so far. I absolutely love it. I love the website. I love what they do. We've got Gabe Wolff on with us from Everything Bagel, and we're going to be talking about how to skyrocket your Shopify revenue with organic funnels. And I know what you're thinking. Sellernomics is talking about Shopify? What is going on?
I thought you were going to say we're talking about bagels.
Oh, I would love to talk about bagels. Oh my God, I just got back from New York and I did not have a New York bagel. That's a whole nother segue. But, naturally, there's so many Shopify sellers on Amazon and vice versa. It's worth having a conversation from the other side of the e-commerce world. And that's what Gabe is here to help us do today. So please welcome Gabe to the show. How are you?
Great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Remind me where you're calling in from.
Technically Hoboken, New Jersey. It's like,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I should have said hi when I was in the area, but yeah, I did not get a bagel. I did get some New York pizza though. And I think that's equally as important.
It's the water.
That's what people say.
Gabe, is your favorite bagel and Everything Bagel? Of course.
Nice. Fun fact, I have celiac disease, so I have not had a true bagel in 18 years. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
Oh, that's terrible. Well, at least people don't force feed it to you like they do chicken wings to Sean, the Hot Ones guy. He's like, everyone always brings me wings when I go out to eat, and I'm like, please stop. I'm so full of wings.
Yeah. All right. Shopify.
Yeah, let's go ahead and
a little bit about
get straight into it. We're talking about organic funnels. Of course, paid funnels are super important too. And to kind of talk about a more generic avenue than Shopify specifically or Amazon specifically, what about like social media? What are some of the essentials of a strong organic funnel on social in a place that has, it feels paid, everything feels pay to play now. So like how organic?
Yeah. So I think like there are two very distinct words there. There's organic and then paid. Balloons.
Oh, that's fun.
The new effects.
Yeah. So with the organic side, it's what we call content marketing. You're just providing value. You're just engaging with the audience through the lens of your brand, your storytelling. You're really just trying to create stories and narratives that connect with the user base. Paid is completely different. Paid is direct response. That is beginning, middle, end, pain point, problem solve, product is hero, social proof, end. And so like that follows a very standardized formula, specifically with video. Whereas organic is very much just, here's the free pizza at our party. Hope you enjoy. And so like brands oftentimes try to sell on organic. That doesn't help. It doesn't help the algorithm, doesn't feed you more users. It doesn't give you more engagement. Or they do the opposite. They try to like do a ton of storytelling on paid. And they're like, well, my ROI here sucks. So anyway.
And what about Gabe? There is Shopify, but there's also other websites out there. So is the same approach to Shopify when it comes to funnels, like the same approach that you should use if you're just running a website on a standard platform or something like that?
In theory, yes. In practice, very different. So your Shopify is very different than your social media. I think many brands get this wrong. Even on your paid ads are actually doing all the convincing and heavy lifting of convincing or playing the psychological part of a user's journey on their way to becoming a buyer. Your actual store is there to just complete that last section. What ends up happening is brands get confused very often about the different elements on their Shopify page or their website or their journey post-click, post-ad click or post-organic click. And then they get in the way of the sale. It's kind of like getting in the way of yourself on a date. Like if you're vibing with somebody and you're like, well, let me tell you about all my ex-girlfriends or all my ex-partners. It's like, great. Like, won't be calling you again. So you don't want to do that when you get to your website. Honestly, you want to make the prospect feel as comfortable and confident as possible in your product and the promise that it has. So Shopify is great because it gives you a blank canvas, very different than Amazon. So you can continue the storytelling that you were doing in the ad, but you don't want to overthink it. Like most people are there to have some sort of like buy box page with some romance underneath it. And you just want to continue to make the touch point of like getting it to cart, getting it to checkout as easy as possible throughout that process. But go under the assumption of like your product description page or PDP should be somewhat resembling an Amazon page of just like, here's your product, key highlights, CTA, compare at price, on deal, any incentives, and then you can start to go into more storytelling and romance underneath it. So
after that, yeah. So like an example of getting in their own way would be, you have an ad or a post about a product, they go to website and then they're sent to like the Our Story page. I mean, that would definitely put me off. Like if I want to buy, I want to buy it. I don't want to have to hunt for it after I click on this ad. Exactly.
Like, no, it's very rare that someone's clicking on a paid direct response ad and wants to go to the About Us page and hear about the founders. Like it has a role. It's important. I probably wouldn't lead with that. Like,
yeah,
you're at the end of the day, you're selling a product to a user who has a problem. You've already identified the problem and convinced them that your product is the solution on the ad. Let them buy the product.
Yeah, exactly. What are some of the other hurdles that sellers face when integrating their Shopify store into their strategy? Let's say that they've either been on Amazon or they are just starting their own Shopify store for the first time. Other than getting in their own way and kind of shooting themselves in the foot, what are some other hurdles they face?
This is going to open up like the Pandora's box of everything here. So the biggest fallacy, not only on Shopify and not only on Amazon, but just in digital marketing in general, is to think that your user has a straight line to purchase when they're buying any product, let alone yours. When a user finds or discovers your product, whether that's organic social or with some degree of intent by punching it into Amazon or Google, they go through a process where they're experiencing your product in the context of the internet and their interaction with it. So the biggest fallacy is that like, I created a Shopify and I have Facebook ads running. It's Facebook to Shopify end story. If you have an Amazon store and you're just trying to evaluate your impact on paid social or on Shopify just through the lens of Facebook to Shopify, and you're not paying attention to any lift on Amazon, you're missing dozens, hundreds, thousands of purchases and lift that you should be considering. No user on the internet anymore, I don't even know if ever, doesn't have an omni-platform, omni-channel experience when buying pretty much anything, whether that's groceries, sneakers, t-shirts, supplements, anything. You're going through consideration phases on multiple different websites, and then you're going to check out where you're the most comfortable or where it's the easiest.
Oh, and yeah. Yeah. I mean, with quality and price, I mean, like you said, consumers, even before the online shopping experience, my mom has always gone to specific grocery stores for specific products. We like the produce here and the packaged goods are cheaper here, but this one place has this one particular coffee that we are going to go get. Like, there's always something.
I use food a lot in example. I had a food business for about a decade with my wife. Yeah, Whole Foods used to be like the discovery, if not like the Instagram of grocery stores, because you could go there and like discover all these different products. It was almost like demand was generated there. But then you go to Walmart, Target, Kroger to actually like check out and get your weekly load. It's like that's changed. But that example, I think, is like the best way of explaining, like, you don't really discover in some of those more commodity, lower price markets, you're getting your regular items. And like, if something works its way into the mix, then you're going to buy it, Amazon included. Whereas like you used to discover at the farmer's market or like friend of a friend or at Whole Foods. Anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Gabe, what about email marketing? Is that considered a funnel? And does anybody still do email marketing?
We do. Yes. So email's the cheapest, most effective impression you can make. And there's one big asterisk to that. The user has to consent to being emailed by you.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not top of funnel. It's not awareness. You can use it for content marketing. You can use it for romance and for storytelling. 100%. You should. It's a free impression, or, a quarter of a cent, depending on your platform. And you should use it every day, if not every other day. The thing is that it doesn't work the same way as like a paid ad or a search ad or organic social. It's a different platform. It's a different medium, and that needs to be considered. So
what is your opinion on SMS marketing? Because I feel like I'm having more and more invitations to opt into text every day.
Few brands do it well. It's very intrusive. But when done well, it's fantastic and has great ROI. So
yeah, for sure.
Do you think that there's a certain size of business or stage in their growth in which a seller should say either email or text, or use both or neither? What does that evaluation process look like?
Always email. It's so inexpensive and just out of the box. You should be doing it. And you don't need to design every email. Not every email should be like this properly designed, beautiful email. Actually, users are opening and reacting to, it's called text only emails more and more and more, where it feels like a person's actually emailing you as opposed to a brand. Same logic on text. They're not exclusive with each other. The best flows that we operate are both email and SMS. SMS just needs to be more conversational and a little less brand, 10% off, 20% off. Like, that doesn't work great. You get that. You kind of expect that all the time. I've seen brands do it really, really well, where they basically share tips 2 to 3 times per week max. And it's actually very value oriented to the end user. And then when there's a sale, the user is more keen to actually interact with the text message, because it's a little bit of a pattern break. But if the user's not going to open and like read your text, then they're probably going to unsubscribe inside of 6 months, because it's a pain in the ass. No one wants their phone buzzing all day when they're at work from brands. Like, that's.
Oh my gosh, I don't even want my phone buzzing on the weekend. Like, I've gotten to the point where I'm like, if she even goes off, I'm like, oh no, don't bother me.
Exactly.
I've been getting annoyed just from the in-app notifications now. Was it a DoorDash or something, right? Oh, there's a coupon for, today's DoorDash thing. Yeah. And I'm just like, it just drives me nuts. But Gabe, how about giving us maybe an example of a successful email marketing, either strategy you worked on for a customer or maybe your own?
Yeah. So there's like 2 parts, 3 to the email strategy. There's what's called the lead capture. So that's actually getting people to opt in for email. We're a Klaviyo partner, so I'm going to speak in Klaviyo terms. We do a lot of A/B testing at the lead capture level, testing different incentives, testing different copy to get a user to opt in for email and then subsequently opt in for SMS. What's the most successful for getting the highest opt-in rate? And we've had opt-in rates as high as like 10%, which is an insane amount. Like, if 1 in 10 people coming to your website are opting in for email and SMS, you're winning. So what we do is we start with an X% incentive, whether that's 10 or 15, and then we hike it up for SMS. So the user who's already said like, yeah, I'm qualified enough, I want the discount code or I want the carrot, when you give them an even greater incentive right after for SMS, you kind of maintain that opt-in rate. So it goes from like 9 to 7% for SMS, which just leads to greater list growth. So that's it's like actually getting people in your CRM to actually email and text them. The second part of it is what's called flows or journeys, depending on what platform you're on. That is actually like the automation that gets triggered by somebody opting in. And so that's sending somebody an email immediately, giving them the offer that you just gave them, or giving them the piece of content that you just gave them, recipe book. Liquid Death does like horror scopes. I think it's so creative. So funny. And then they go into a flow or a journey. It's basically a logic tree. And so what's happening is because they've opted in, Klaviyo, as well as other email marketing systems, will actually track their behavior on site. They've opted in for cookies. And so while they're on your website, and this is a big advantage of Shopify, you get to see their behavior. And that triggers all sorts of logic if you map it right, where if they view a product but not buy, and then they add to cart on this product and then get to checkout but abandon, you can trigger different emails and different text messages depending on what they're doing. Many marketers only stop there and they just do transactional emails of, hey, saw you put product X in your cart. Here's 20% off to go check out today. You should do that. But if that's all you're communicating to your customer or your prospect, they're not really that engaged with you. And so what we like to do is introduce educational flows as well, or value again. So content marketing. It's kind of like bringing back content marketing from the beginning of our conversation with organic social in through email. You viewed the Air Max 95 on Nike. Here are like the greatest dunks from 1995. Like things that, like, I'm not trying to sell you. You clearly have an affinity for this psycho demo. Let me give you more of that in your inbox. See if you react to that. And if you don't open it, great. I'm not going to send you any more of it. There's logic to kind of like pull you out of that segment. And then the last is campaigns. Campaigns, we probably pull that lever 2 to 3 times a week at a minimum per client. It's the, hey, new product release, or it's Mother's Day, or it's, you know, some sort of event that we want to hit everybody who's engaged and get them to participate with our brand today. And ultimately, a user is probably getting an email from you every 24 to 36 hours at that rate, just because the flows are running, you're running campaigns. It's enough. You don't have to like force feed anything beyond that. And you're maxing out that free or low cost impression to them.
Yeah, that's exceptional. Let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsor. But when we come back, I have a couple of more questions for you, Gabe, and I think a fun little game that we can play. So we will be back in just a second.
Boosting your Amazon FBA profits have never been easier. Thanks, Getida. We handle the complex process of FBA refund recovery so that you don't waste time. Sellernomics listeners, claim your first $400 in free reimbursements by visiting Getida.com/Sellernomics. Experience hassle-free profit growth with Getida today.
All right, y'all, be sure to head over to Getida.com/Sellernomics for that first 400 in FBA reimbursements free. We are back with Gabe Wolff. And you just gave the example of the dunks, right? Like you were looking at these Nike dunks, or I know nothing about shoes, but you're looking at these Nikes and here's some of these cool dunks from 30 years ago today, whatever. I think it'd be fun if we came up with a couple of different products and you gave us ideas of some educational or non-sales content that sellers could be using to reach out to their customer base, because I think that's probably a huge hurdle for them of, well, I don't know what else to give them. I have a super seasonal product. What am I going to tell them the 9 other months out of the 12 of the year? So I think this would be a fun exercise. What would you say for somebody who's selling maybe just like a phone accessories brand?
Yeah. How does that integrate into your life? How does it make your life that much better? Right. I think like the greatest example in the past month has probably been the pop socket replacement where your lip gloss goes in the back. I forget which celebrity made it popular.
I think it's a Kardashian, right? Wasn't it Kai?
I don't.
Rabina?
Exactly. No. Everyone knows.
You pop up.
Yeah. Right. And so it's like quite literally the different things that you're putting in that, because you're not really selling the pop socket accessory or the lip gloss holder. You're selling the convenience of actually having it on your phone with you all the time. So like, it's like taking your phone for a run now and you have that item with you, whereas you normally wouldn't, because you'd have to like pack it separately. Just things around that like actually are indirectly selling, but are not saying you should buy this. It's $5 off right now. It's actually integration. So
Gotcha.
Interesting. Could be
What
somebody on a
about-
ski slope. They stop, pull out their chapstick. There you go. There's a quick little video or something, right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Women don't have pockets in like the majority of their clothing articles. we can talk about that. That's a whole nother podcast.
Thank you.
But that's a great piece of content marketing, because then you're going to be reminded of the fact that you don't have pockets, and that inventory management is a bigger.
They all go in the husband's pocket.
Yeah.
I am the official carrier.
Yeah, or we have to have a purse. The pants industry is in cahoots with the purse industry, and they're all in it to make money together. And I cannot be convinced otherwise. What about a product where maybe what about the Stanley Cup, where maybe Stanley's like, oh, we don't need to give anything. Like if they have a really hot selling product, right? Like it's flying off the shelves, and do I really need to market to my audience anymore? Because I already know they're going to buy 10 of it. It's like, why do I need to invest in this?
There are so many good examples of what Stanley did in Q4 and Q1 of this past year. I don't know if you saw the car that caught fire and the only thing that lasted was the cup.
Oh, yeah. I didn't. Wow.
But you didn't see that. Yeah.
I mean, literally create multiple different content pillars that way of just flame throwing a Stanley tumbler. You can just demonstrating how indestructible this is. Again, you're indirectly selling the product. You're not doing a big CTA of, hey, buy it now. You're just showing how great this is. Then there's the other side of what Stanley's done with it, which is just having every influencer on Instagram, on TikTok, have one in the background. And it's just the cup. And then there's just the whole psychological aspect of seeing a really colorful, big tumbler in every single one of them where it has the straw and it's in camera, in frame. So they've done a great job across the board. I think they're going to be written up in marketing textbooks. So
yeah, I think you're right. And you had mentioned one thing before. Sorry, Rob, I'll let you get a question in, but you had mentioned cookies before and not the snack, right? The digital cookies. And we were just talking about that this morning, and Google's going to get rid of them. They pushed the date on that, but what does that mean for these brand owners that are kind of depending on them?
Yeah, I actually recorded a TikTok about this today. Nice. Cookieless future has been happening for the past 4 years since iOS 14. It just so happens that Meta and Amazon and Google sit on a lot of data pre iOS 14. They are creating a larger moat around their platforms. The only difference here is that a marketer can't rely on just coarse data or the pixel to matchmake the way it has, or the cookie for that matter, to matchmake the way it has in the past. You actually have to focus on creative analysis of your ads. Are you actually pinpointing the problem that a user has and solving it in a 15 to 30 second clip, or in a static, or in an animation? Because if you're not, and you're just relying on, here's my product, go find me buyers, you're going to fail, as many advertisers have over the past 4 years since the data became decremented. So all cookieless future means is that you're doing more psychodemographic targeting, or people who would like your product, but you're doing it at a creative level. And so it shifts the onus of media buying and performance from a traditional media buyer, or even an AI or an algo, over to the creative team to be really smart about why someone's buying. We always start with reviews. That's the biggest wealth of information. Why are people buying from you? Why are people buying from your competitor? What problems are you solving? What problems are your competitors solving? How do you compare? And that creates an entire logic branch of different creative pillars to build content around, different pain points to solve. And that goes for A+ content too. It's not just static ads on Instagram or video ads on TikTok. You should be integrating that across platform at every step.
Yeah. And Gabe, we talked earlier about a lot of user-generated content, a lot of social media. What about good old-fashioned SEO? Is that still a factor when it comes to either a funnel or Shopify store?
It only helps. We are kind of all on the edge of our seat with the change in how Google is optimizing its search engine. I don't know how much of that you guys have been talking about.
A bit.
We haven't really, but I've seen that they have now, instead of just the Google summary up top, now it's an experimental AI summary that I've seen in the last 3 days, I feel like. So yeah, talk to us about it. We haven't talked about it at all.
I don't think many people know much about it, because it hasn't been released yet. I think they're calling it search generated optimization instead, or generative search in general. Because basically what they're doing is they're going to take matchmaking using Bard or whatever they're now Gemini, and actually using that to generate queries for you based off of your past history, based off of other sites that you've been to. And so it's kind of like their best bet at giving you what you need. So Rob, your search history is probably different than Lisa's regarding the same commodity type, so that you don't get the same result when searches come up. Why that matters for SEO? SEO was built off of this very linear, like computational, great, like we're just going to keep ranking higher and higher and higher for these sets of keywords. That may be completely irrelevant or very, very different in the next 12 months, yet alone like the next quarter. So it's kind of, on our side, we haven't been pushing SEO as much. We think it's going to be phased out into this more generative experience for users over the next couple of years. I believe that's going to be way more based on your interaction on YouTube, on social, on actual websites than the popularity or the cross-linking that you would typically see with SEO or backlinking. So I don't know where it's going to go, but we're not confidently like pushing SEO on clients right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. And what about I don't know, I don't think we covered this, but what about some of the common mistakes people make or businesses make when it comes to either funnels on their Shopify store or just in general that you've seen that are like, man, every time I get a new client, they always do this one thing and don't do that type of thing.
On Shopify or paid social?
Either on Shopify. Yeah, no, probably on Shopify.
Yeah. On Shopify, it's probably the Frankenstein of plugins. So Shopify's ecosystem is fantastic. You can basically get a plugin or an app to do nearly any function you need. And they're great in isolation. But when you start to stack them, and by stack, I mean like 5+, you start to break your website in different weird ways. And it becomes virtually impossible to troubleshoot. So I've had clients, still do, that rely heavily on plugins. The problem is it's a third party that has developed that plugin and you're at their mercy if there's an issue with it. And so you'll wake up one morning and your add to cart percentage is in the toilet. And we're like scratching our heads like, we didn't change anything on the media side. Everything looks good over here. The cost per impression didn't increase. Like, what's up? And you go to the website and it'll be sneaky. Like it's like on iOS, on Safari, you can't add to cart.
Wow.
And you're like, well, like, crap, that sucks. Got to wait for somebody to fix it.
Yeah. How do you fix that? Can you like email the people, or you just got to like wait?
You can email. It's just you're on their timeline to fix that. And like it's their QA, it's their queue in general of when they'll get to it. So there's an inflection point for most brands. It's typically when they're doing about like $2 to $3 million a year on their Shopify that we urge them to get off of plugins. Again, it doesn't make sense to hard code everything. We do a lot of it, but it doesn't make sense to hard code everything out of the gate. You're still trying to find product market fit. Use plugins. You're not going to. Product market fit will be determined whether you do or do not have some cross-sell app in your website. You're going to find out if people want your stuff. After you figure that out, then yes, polish the turd that is the plugin Frankenstein and get it to work.
I love it. That's awesome.
Oh, what a phrase. Let's kind of close out today's episode with talking about metrics for success. So what would you say are some of the metrics that sellers should be grading themselves against for a strong Shopify strategy, if you will? What's kind of the rubric they should be following?
Very industry dependent, but for the majority, it's your customer acquisition costs. How much does it cost you to get a new customer? And how much are they spending with you? The main difference between Shopify and Amazon is you have all of that data at your fingertips. So you know who your customers are and you know how much each one of them is spending with you, how frequent they're buying from you, what they're buying. And you can look at all those patterns and actually understand very, very deeply your customer base as well as your business. And you can make better decisions across the board, not just on Shopify, but on which products to push on Amazon or to put in the promo cycle for Target, et cetera. So that is like the North Star for the majority of our businesses, specifically consumables, because you have high repeats and you're handling lots of inventory that has typically some sort of spoilage date. That is true north. Otherwise, it's just your profitability and your productivity per product. Again, like a lot of it gets lost when you're doing wholesale orders to retailers or even Amazon, because Amazon could be overweight on a certain product for a specific reason, maybe less competition. You get all that data on Shopify. That's really the power of direct to consumer or Shopify for that matter.
Yeah, definitely. That's one of the biggest hurdles of Amazon is not having that customer data, but it's such a powerful platform. Otherwise you can't ignore it. Right. But, I guess the last question for you, I just want to pick your brain. And we can include this or not, but what are your thoughts on what's going to happen with TikTok and TikTok Shop?
They're not getting banned. I've been joking about it all week. Like they're not getting banned. The platform is too immature, and the attribution or like the stringing of a purchase to an ad is still really immature, specifically because that data is all post iOS 14. Mm-hmm. That's why they push TikTok shops. That's why they're trying to keep as much data on platform so that they can actually like understand that. It's not nefarious. They're just trying to sell better ad product to advertisers. Like that's all they're really trying to do. So no, I don't think it'll actually get banned. I think they'll divest what they need to divest. I even saw something today that they're entertaining like some sort of 20% minimum for ByteDance to still own and like sell everything but the actual For You page algorithm.
Gotcha.
Anyway.
Yeah. And for those that are listening, this is coming out after recording, but the news broke yesterday that the Supreme Court passed the bill. So that's why it's quite topical for the moment. But Gabe, I would love to hear more about Everything Bagel, what y'all do, how you got started, and how you came up with the name.
Life story. So
in 60 seconds or less, go. No.
Yeah. So again, ran an ice cream business with my wife. We did that for about a decade. It was fantastic and horrible at the same time, as is most entrepreneurial journeys. We grew that business to 4 million a year. And then ice cream has this one thing that's really flawed about its business model. It needs to be kept cold. So if you have bad beats with logistics, meaning that your product melts, so does your profit. So in 2019, we closed the business. I jumped into a brand incubator in the cosmetic space, was able to grow them rather quickly throughout COVID. And then in 2021, throughout all of that, I hated pretty much every agency experience I had. Really found that they were never really aligned with my goals, either as the owner operator or just the operator. The goal is the same: grow revenue profitably, like period, hard stop. How you do that is very, very nuanced, and agencies tend to be very specific in one tool in the toolkit, and they meter that tool to their advantage. There are fantastic and innovative people at agencies. They are the most fantastic and technically skilled at those different tools. The only issue I had with it was that our incentives were never really fully aligned. So rather than build a paid social agency or a Shopify agency or a Klaviyo agency and just meter one tool in the toolkit, the problem is like the owner operator or the director of e-commerce or the VP of marketing doesn't always know what tool to use next and understand how all these tools work together. And so that's what we do at Everything Bagel, hence the name. It's not just like the sesame seeds or the poppy seeds or the salt or the flour that makes an Everything Bagel taste the way it does. It's all those things in combination. The same way that marketing tools need to be used together to create a winning mix. So that is Everything Bagel. We handle everything in the digital space except for heavy Amazon. That's actually like why we rely on certain other partners for Amazon in general. It is everything paid social and creative strategy between organic, paid, your website, email, SMS, as we just talked about. Anything that's got a lot of latitude in terms of what you can do. So
Awesome.
Nice.
And who would be like a best fit customer to come work with Everything Bagel?
Yeah, we're really strong once you've figured out product market fit, but you don't know how to scale. So if you're already doing somewhere between like $1 and $3 million a year, we are a good party to have a conversation with, because what we essentially do is we understand the main notes that are working for your customer base, and we just amplify that through creative iteration, making hundreds of ads a month based on what we understand about your customer, and then we get to know your future customers even better. So
awesome.
Nice.
And if anyone is interested in learning more about Everything Bagel or reaching out to Gabe directly, y'all can check out the website at everythingbagel.com, or you can email Gabe at everythingbagel.com. Nothing for me to spell there. These are easy episodes. I love it.
Wait, I got to ask you a question, Gabe.
Mm-hmm.
Did the company or the brand that sells Everything Bagel, there's a brand that does that, have they tried to come to you and buy the website yet?
No, but there's a war story behind getting the domain. But
that's another podcast.
Yeah.
Very cool. Very cool.
Awesome. I was wondering how you got that, so we'll definitely have to hear that later. But Gabe, thank you so much for your time and all of your knowledge today. We super appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you so much for everyone who tuned in. If you liked what you heard today, please be sure to give us a thumbs up, share this episode with your friends, share your thoughts with us in the comments, subscribe to the show, and we will see you all on the next one.
Thanks for joining us this week on the Sellernomics Podcast. Special thanks to our sponsor, Getida. Did you know that Amazon probably owes you money for FBA reimbursements? Get $400 in free FBA reimbursements at Getida.com/Sellernomics. Be sure to join us again next week for more great tips on how to grow your business. And thanks again for listening.